there's this inherent vulnerability that is involved with talking to someone, trusting an organization or a person with parts of your life that perhaps you haven't shared with others or feel delicate. And would just encourage you to say that it's in the context of relationships when we show up with a little bit of vulnerability that there's the opportunity to feel known.
Welcome to That's a Rep, and this time we're excited to do this in person. We are at an offsite, and we're going to be doing a bunch of episodes in our podcast studio, and I am here with Richard Mattingly. But, most people, when we talk about mental fitness and what our coaches do, they don't know what happens in a coaching session. Mm-hmm. What does the coach say? What does the member do in this situation? Where does it actually get hard for some people? Mm-hmm. So today we're going inside this room to discuss what happens inside the room with the coach. And Richard lives in this. This is what he does. He is our coach success manager, and he works with the people on the full spectrum of mental fitness, from helping someone get out of their own head to building the kind of inner endurance that that holds us up when life gets heavy. He trains the coaches, helps them be able to have that conversation. So, Richard, I am so pumped to be in person this time talking with you. Before we get into the mechanics of a session, which we will get into, let's start at the beginning, because I think a lot of people who've never worked with a coach have this fuzzy picture of what it even is. There's a lot of question marks around there. Is it a conversation? Is it structured? Is someone telling me what to do? So let's start at the very beginning. Yeah. When someone first has a call with someone, we can even talk about what that call is, because there's also, is it a video call? Is it an audio call? Yeah. How does that work? Yeah. Let's start from the very beginning.
Okay, awesome. Okay, if it's okay with you, I'm actually going to rewind even further, more of the very beginning. Yeah. So for someone to grasp what a coaching call is, they first need to understand who a coach is. Yeah. Because the word coaching is kind of this big, broad word that gets used in a lot of different contexts today. And essentially, Forte has a team, and the people who we bring on board are people who are emotionally intelligent, they're self-aware, and most of all, they're people that are what we would call congruent. Okay. And what I mean by that is what they believe is how they live. Okay. And when we're interviewing or we're talking to people, we're asking people questions about what's important to them, about their life. Who are they? What do they believe in? How do they live? And those congruent values of who they are as a person matter more. We believe matter more than the training they receive. Because you cannot separate what a coaching conversation looks like from the person who's on the other end of the phone call. Their entire life story, not that it's going to become about them during the call, but their entire life story comes to bear in that session with how they ask questions. How that person views themselves as a human being is going to change how they view you as a human being. Yeah. And when we have a team of coaches that we've built, where we've essentially built a team of people that say, I know I matter simply because of who I am. And I have a skill set that allows me to ask questions. All of our coaches come to us and say, I want to walk alongside people because I care about other people. Yeah. It comes from their own pain, their own story, their own growth process, their own personal aspiration. Yeah. It's really just this longing to want to be present with another person in the middle of their story. Yeah. So the coaches are this kind of eclectic group of individuals that possess this inherent view of how they view themselves in the world, which is that they matter because not because of what they do, but because of who they are. Yep. And that the person they're talking to matters, not because of the title they hold at the company we work with, but simply because of who they are. Okay. So we believe that the coach is gonna carry that into the room with them, and who they are is gonna come through in these questions and all of that. So does that kind of make sense? It starts before the connection. It starts with the person. Yeah, and I appreciate that, because it also answers a question of who is the coach? How do they have the ability to even have a conversation with me ahead of time? So that's very helpful. But continue this conversation. How does this all start? We talked about the coaches. Yep. Now what? Yeah. So essentially, as a Forte member, when you log into our platform, you get paired with a coach, and you can choose a coach who you can work with that one, or you can choose a different coach. And when it's time to get started, you can set up it's basically you schedule on your calendar, and then you receive a phone call. So what's really nice about this is it's like kind of bare bones and stripped back from what I mean by that is you're getting a phone call from another human being.
Which is weird nowadays.
It feels foreign.
Yeah, it does.
It's like, wait, I'm just gonna get a good old classic phone call from someone on the other line who has their own story and is gonna prioritize a space where I get to talk about mine. Like that, it's not an AI bot.
No,
it's not all these other things. Like it's a compassionate person who values themselves and values others.
It reminds me of like the 90s. That's how I talk to my friends. I'm older, so I'll admit that. But it's how we would talk to each other, or we would go to our friend's house and have a conversation. And that's unfortunately in the high-tech world we live in. Now it's shoot a quick text. You don't get the context. You don't get the understanding of what else is happening in their life. But in a phone conversation, you still do. So that's really interesting.
That first call will be a little bit different because it's explaining, hey, here's what Forte's about. Here's how I can support you. Is this a good fit, etc. But in general, as that relate, and if that fit is confirmed, and in general, the fit would be around, it's really what the individual is looking for, and our coaches they're not. It's not a clinical service where we're evaluating symptoms and saying, hey, we're going to decrease the level of anxiety that you experience. It's a little bit more, how I would say it is, a coach shows up and asks you what matters to you so that you can self-identify, here's what's important to me in my life.
Yeah.
And okay, now that we kind of understand what matters to you and why that matters, what steps can you take that allow you to live a little bit more in alignment with what matters to you?
Yeah.
So those are the types of questions a coach is trying to ask. And during that first session, it's going to be, hey, what brought you here?
Yeah.
What are the things that matter to you? Why were you interested in this in the first place? The coach will share briefly about who they are.
Yeah.
Because you are going to want to know. They're not going to make it about themselves, but they will share briefly like, hey, here's who I am.
Yeah.
And here's why this matters to me. I'm a Forte coach not because I make the big bucks, but because I enjoy hearing people's stories and supporting others on their life journey.
Yeah.
And that conversation kind of sets the stage for like, okay, now I know what matters to you. Now I know why you're here. What cadence, what rhythm would it make sense to connect together?
Yeah.
And you have the flexibility through Forte to meet for 30 minutes, 45, 60 minutes, once a month, once a quarter, whatever it might look like. There's different cadences. But that first conversation really sets the stage. It's just about building trust. It's about confirming fit. Like, hey, here's who Forte is. Here's how we're trained. Here's how we can support you. What is it you're looking for? What matters to you? Okay, this is a fit. Let's connect again soon.
Yeah.
And from there, the conversations start to take a different shape.
Yeah. And even in physical training, you have to have that initial conversation with a trainer, with someone who's helping you, because you don't walk into a gym and immediately think, I'm going to go deadlift 350 pounds. If you do that, you're going to break. Like, that's not how you physically can do things. You come in and you learn the basics, you learn and you start to build and you start to grow. And I think sometimes we imagine, like, with any kind of mental wellness thing, this person's going to fix me. Well, that's not the reality of how this works. You're building something, and we want to help walk you through life of like, what's your situation? And it's not a situation where the coach is going to be like, okay, I'm going to tell you what to do next. It's more of, I'm going to listen and we're going to have a conversation.
Yes.
And it's definitely unique in that sense too. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. So I think that's huge. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because coaching, based on the word, you get this idea that someone's going to be directing you in terms of what you should be doing based on a problem that you present. But really, to boil it down again, I want to take as much mystery out of this as possible. How our Forte coaches are trained, they're trained in what's called active listening.
Okay.
And helping people discover their values. So active listening is all about basically reflecting back what you hear someone say.
Okay.
And asking open-ended questions that allows someone to basically take the next step around, here's what I meant by that. Oh, here's what's going on for me. Here are the emotions and the thoughts that are in the undercurrent of what I'm experiencing. So they're basically training listening, asking questions, and then ultimately helping someone identify their personal values and live a little bit more in alignment with that. So it's a little bit simpler than people would think, but profound in that that's not the type of space that we have in our current life. Most of us don't have someone that completely prioritizes you in a space where they simply are repeating back what they heard you say and reflecting back in such a way that it helps a little bit more discovery, a little bit more insight into like, oh, here's what maybe you meant by that. Oh, these are maybe some of the emotions and thoughts that you're experiencing. And then helping you discover, here's what to make of that.
Yeah.
Here's what that means.
Yeah.
And then it kind of gives you this process and then pathway to begin walking down. It's a little bit a big word that people come with us they end up sharing after our sessions is clarity. They feel heard and they have a little bit more clarity on the things that are important to them and how they can live in alignment with those values.
Yeah. And it's making me think of too, like therapy is a bit more reactionary. It's when you're in crisis and we try to fill that gap. We try to be more proactive and help people in the midst of navigating the journey of life. It doesn't have to be a moment where you're so stressed out and broken and everything's falling apart. It could be like, I had a good day. I'd like to talk to somebody about that who doesn't have preconceived notions, or even sometimes when you go to talk to your parents or talk to a friend, they come knowing who you are in a different way to where if you say to them, man, I'm really struggling with this, they might say, well, that's because you always spend your money that way. Well, that's not helpful, you know? So it's really nice to have someone who's separated, but also who comes to understand you on a newer level and also have a different perspective on things that maybe you've never thought of before. I think that's huge.
Yes, you nailed it. To have that confidential space that's a little bit separate from your daily life and your daily relationships, and someone who holds the stance that you matter not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Creates we call it a relational container, but it basically just creates the environment for self-awareness and change to start taking place. And that perspective really helps. There's a lot of things you said in there that are very accurate about what we do.
And Richard, I love having conversations with you. We've talked about this after the first 2 podcasts that we did. And when we hung out in Utah, we were like, man, we have this conversational gel, you know? And I think that that's something people can have in a coaching session too, is there's a genuine desire, as you said earlier, to want to know someone else and to have a conversation. And I always appreciate that with you. And we had a conversation at breakfast this morning of like, we had something in common that was a painful experience and we were able to talk through that. It didn't end with me being like, now here's your next 3 steps. It was just something we resonated on. And we were like, man, that's life. And we both felt good by the end of it, even though there was like this weird tension because we were talking about, you know, joy and grief and like heavy things. By the end of it, we were both like, what a great conversation.
Yes. And you know what's powerful about that conversation is we didn't talk about, okay, here's what that means, how I can live more intentionally. Not that that's not a bad question. But simply by connecting with you in such a way that I felt understood, we had this shared sense of meaning. I naturally have energy to change how I'm living. In our cultural moment, what we do is we often prioritize the action steps, but we bypass the process of simply slowing down, feeling understood for who we are, reconnecting with the core of who we are, which is the things that matter to me. And the byproduct of that will be changed behavior. Doesn't mean it's going to be hard, but there's this natural next step when you make those types of discoveries about yourself, particularly in the context of a relationship where someone gets you and you help feeling understood in the context of a relationship. When you feel that way and the core of you feels seen, you're going to live a little bit more naturally in alignment with the core of who you are. And living more in alignment with that will look like changed behavior and changed living. And there will be this tension of like all the pressure of the world to not live that way. Feeling seen in relationship naturally creates it as a byproduct. So our coaching has less emphasis on, hey, take these steps in order to increase your productivity or whatever it might be. It's a little bit more of, who are you?
Yeah.
I see you. I value you for that. And as conversations come to a close, it only becomes natural to say, okay, so what does this mean for you throughout this next week? What does this mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, actually, I really want to show up in my marriage in a different way, or I want to show up at work in a different way, or I'm hoping to develop more community in my daily life because I'm realizing how valuable these types of relationships are, or I feel a greater sense of purpose to actually share this maybe painful thing I went through that we got to talk about. No, I actually feel a greater sense of purpose to share it with others.
Yeah.
It's given me new meaning.
Yeah.
So there's so many different things that can come of it, but we prioritize someone feeling seen and understood, and an overflow of that is intentional steps of living differently.
Yeah, because once you know your core being, my values, this is what I know about myself, then you can start training those things and start to build on those things. And that happens through relationship. It happens through conversation. And I've had so many moments with my wife even where it's like, man, I'm really struggling with something, or I know this isn't in alignment with what I want, my values for my family. And we have to sit down and have a hard conversation. But sometimes when you do that with your wife, it makes it even harder because you're so ingrained in this life. But having someone else to talk to sometimes is just like, wow, I never would have had that perspective unless someone who maybe isn't so ingrained in the nature and the context of my life can come in and say, you know, I hear you saying this. Have you ever considered this or had thoughts or whatever, you know? So I'm curious too, you mentioned a couple things that you actually do in the session. It's not just a conversation. There's more to it. There's training that has happened. Can you speak to that a little bit for us too?
Yes, definitely. So I'm going to outline kind of a little bit of a framework that our coaches use. And the framework ebbs and flows. These stages are connected. But in general, our coaches follow the 4 Ps in session, which is pause, perceive, process, and ponder.
Okay.
So to quickly share what each one of those means and how it comes to bear on a session. So pause is essentially the starting place of every single session. And the idea being that when a member gets a phone call and they pick up, we're creating a sacred space to press pause on all of life. Most of us are running life a little bit too fast. And for some of us, perhaps we've checked out of life, but still we're pressing pause on autopilot. And we have this sacred space where we have another person who's kind of has that like grounded nervous system, if you want to use that language, and that steady presence to greet you, to delight that you're there. To ask what name you prefer to be called by, like these little things that create kind of this sacred space. And in that pause, here's what a member might be asking, whether they realize it or not. The member's asking themselves, do I matter? Do I matter? And when our coaches simply press pause, it allows them to come to terms with the fact that they matter not because of what they do, but because of who they are. And it just starts with pausing. And there's usually an opening question. It's, hey, what are you holding? What's been on your heart this last week? Something like that allows the member to bring up what's been going on for them and what matters to them. You know, how would you like to use these next 30 minutes? It's prioritizing what they would like out of that time together. So that's pause. And feel free to stop me at any point if you have questions about what this looks like.
Let me pause. I'm just kidding.
I like that. The second is perceive.
Okay.
So after you click pause and you ask that opening question, the coach helps you locate yourself. In your own story.
Explain that to me.
Okay. So most of us are living on autopilot. We're reacting to most of life. We're not living congruent with the things that matter most to us.
Out of alignment.
We're out of alignment.
And
a coach presses pause and they're answering the question for the member, do I matter?
Yep.
And we're trying to communicate through our presence and through the fact that we're showing up on this call that you do matter.
Yeah.
Not for what you do, but because of who you are.
Okay.
And perceive is to create enough awareness for someone to recognize where it is they're finding themselves.
Yeah.
And perceiving their emotional experience in the moment over the last week, the thoughts they've been having, what thoughts are the loudest. An analogy potentially we could use is that everyone's in the river of life, right? A coach comes and gets in the boat with the person.
Okay.
And they say, the pause is to say, hey, I'm here with you. And the perceive is to say, where are you on this river? Have you drifted?
Yep.
Are you about to crash into the bank? Are you in the rapids?
Yep.
Are you in a nice, peaceful oasis?
Right.
And it's to stop and take inventory of your experience. Because we can't change what we don't understand. And if we're operating on autopilot, we're never going to be able to start intentionally responding rather than just reacting to life. So if you were to skip to, we talk a lot about training at Forte. If you were to skip straight to training and never perceive what it is you're training, you might be training something that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
You might be training your desire to feel, to people please all the time. And that's where you get your sense of self-worth. But if you pause and perceive and check in with your emotions and your thoughts and start to recognize like, oh, I've been living on autopilot, working overtime in order that I would finally feel like I'm enough at my job.
Yeah.
Let's not keep training that.
Yeah.
Let's not train this perpetuated cycle of working harder in order to receive acceptance from other people. What is it that actually matters to you?
Yeah.
Let's train that. Let's train the deeper thing. So you have to perceive what's going on before you can get to meaningful training.
Okay.
So it's pause and then it's perceive. So perceive answers the question, where am I?
Okay. So I don't know if this analogy is going to work or not, but we're going to give it a shot. On the way here, my flight was really choppy.
Okay.
And I really appreciated that the pilot came out before we even took off. And he let us know this is going to be a choppy flight.
Yeah.
And there were multiple times during the flight where he would come over the speaker and say, this is going to be choppy. Prepare yourselves. And it was to the point where he was like, the flight attendants are not going to serve food today because it's that choppy. Now, he could have taken a different approach. He could have set that plane on autopilot and just been like, we're going to force our way through this turbulence and not let us know that that was going on.
Yeah.
And as you were talking, it was making me think the pilot represented a coach in that situation because we could have all been on autopilot and just forced ourselves through the turbulence of life.
Yeah.
But there was someone who came in and was like, hey, there's something that's happening here and you need to recognize it. And I'm going to help protect you a little bit. And in that sense, it was the flight attendants where he was like, I'm not going to just let that be okay. You know, I don't want anyone to get hurt. So I'm going to come alongside you and be like, hey, maybe check in on this turbulence a little bit and prepare yourself and protect yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it, even though I didn't appreciate the turbulence, you know, because it prepared us. It gave us a context for why the flight was so choppy. Because sometimes on flights, they don't explain it and you're like, what's going on?
Yes.
So it was just making me think of that too. Like he gave us a perception of this is the reality of why this is happening.
Yes. And how orienting is it to know that the pilot's telling you like, hey, here's why this is happening.
Yeah.
And again, a coach isn't necessarily going to come in. Every analogy breaks down at some point and say, here's why you're having trouble at work. That's not their role.
Right.
But to step in and say, hey, what's this like for you right now? And to listen to your experience. And to repeat it back to you and to help you actually make sense of the fact. Can you imagine, like if someone was on that plane with you and you're thinking to yourself, sitting in that turbulent plane, thinking, this is my fault.
Yeah.
I can't believe, or this pilot really must not like us.
Yeah.
He's taking us the most turbulent route.
Right.
I can't believe he's doing that.
Yeah.
Or like, something along the lines of either self-blame or blaming others. And instead someone's sitting next to you on that flight going, hey, this is hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
And as you simply ask compassionate questions,
Mm-hmm.
people usually start to realize that the story of the pilot intentionally taking them through turbulent waters or the self-blame narrative, that they kind of break down.
Mm-hmm.
And that at the end of the day, there's usually more going on than that. And the person gives you compassion for wherever you find yourself.
I love it.
It's not your fault.
Yep.
You've done the best you can. And even when you haven't, you're human just like me.
Great.
So that's perceive.
Okay. Pause, perceive. Now what?
The second one is process. And again, perceive and process are pretty overlapped.
Okay.
But processing is making sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's open-ended questions, not closed questions where you can say yes or no.
Yep.
My favorite open-ended question is, what do you make of that?
Mm-hmm.
Which allows someone to kind of take a different, basically an outside look at their life and say, oh, what do I make of that?
Yeah.
What does that mean to me? And the follow-up question would be, why is that important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it sounds like you really care about your relationship with your kids.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
And there's this tension you're experiencing. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, that is the tension I'm experiencing. I do care about my kids, but sometimes I feel like I just want to run away and work harder because it's easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So processing is open-ended questions to make sense of your present experience. And to clarify, processing is kind of this word that's used in a lot of different contexts. Again, our coaches are trained for present experience processing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not processing trauma. We're not processing big, overwhelming parts of your story.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Parts of your past will come up naturally, but in general, Forte coaches are trained to just ask you about what's going on in the here and now.
Yep.
And that's really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And here at Forte, we're big fans of other forms of processing. It takes a village. There's many times where therapy, clinical counseling are really helpful, and that the training that person has might be particularly helpful to process something like trauma. So what I mean by processing is open-ended questions about your story in the present, what's been going on for you, helping you make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the last is ponder.
Okay.
So ponder is landing the plane on what's important to you and how you want to live in alignment with what you discovered.
Mm-hmm.
So if processing is uncovering what you make of something and why that's important to you, there's really a discovery of your values, not performative values for what other people want for you, but the values that feel more intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
And then we land the plane on, okay, now that you've kind of discovered that apart from work, what's actually more important to you is your relationship with your family. It's not that work doesn't matter, but you're realizing that maybe you're a little bit out of balance there.
Yeah.
What does it look like to live in alignment with those values?
Yeah.
What's the safe small step that you can take that between now and the next time we meet would look like an authentic recognition of what you discovered and how you can begin living in. So pause, perceive, process, and ponder. And again, they're very interconnected, and the session doesn't always flow perfectly like that. But that's how we train our coaches to facilitate that relational space. Where ultimately, our ultimate goal is that someone would walk away and say to themselves, man, I feel understood. I feel understood. And I feel, and even when I brought things to the table that I'm not particularly proud of, I still feel accepted in that.
Yeah.
I have a greater sense of agency to live in alignment with who I am.
Yeah.
As a result of feeling understood by another compassionate person on the other side.
That's so great. It really does make you almost like, as you're explaining it, I feel lighter because it's ultimately slowing down and recognizing and reflecting and responding. And we live in a culture and a context where that's just not a reality anymore. And our head of well-being was just saying the other day, we didn't used to need gyms because in the past, the physical effort of work was all we needed. And now we have a very different lifestyle. And the way the world has moved and changed over the last number of decades, mental wellness and things like that were not things that were talked about. They were needed for decades, but it wasn't talked about until recently. And it's become kind of a movement that is needed. And I think mental fitness is the next movement. It's that everyday proactive conversation that we need to have. And I think that's something that people feel, but sometimes they don't feel it until they've had a coaching session. And we've had that response from so many people of like, I didn't know what this was, but afterwards I feel lighter. I feel like I understand this a little bit more. So I really appreciate you walking us through that. Before we jump into our rep for this episode, is there anything else that you wanted to address when it comes to coaching sessions?
You know, I think speaking to the person who's considering a coaching session, there's this inherent vulnerability that is involved with talking to someone, trusting an organization or a person with parts of your life that perhaps you haven't shared with others or feel delicate. And would just encourage you to say that it's in the context of relationships when we show up with a little bit of vulnerability that there's the opportunity to feel known. And without that step of vulnerability, that opportunity to feel known and understood does not take place. So there is risk involved with the process of deciding, like, I would like to show up and talk to someone about what's going on with my life, both my positive aspirations and the things that have been difficult for me lately. And that vulnerability is super scary. It feels risky. And I will sit here and say, I have full confidence in the coaches that we've brought on board, that that's something that they embody in their own life, that they take those risks of vulnerability, share with others, and simultaneously want to create that space for others. Yeah.
We don't walk into something strong. We walk into something weak when it comes to any kind of physical formation, spiritual formation, mental formation, whatever it is. We're not inherently strong as humans. It's something that we build and we train. But sometimes it takes that vulnerability, that weakness to become strong. And we need to be able to enter into a place like that. And that's why I love what we do here at Forte. So I appreciate that. All right, let's shift into the rep for this week. And essentially what we're going to ask you to do is almost take some of these concepts into the real world. That's what we hope that you will do as you are trained up in mental fitness. So this week, before any important conversation, it could be a meeting, a hard talk, a moment that matters to you, take 60 seconds to do your own version of a coaching check-in. So ask yourself 3 questions. Where am I right now? Pause for a moment and just reflect. Where am I right now? What's happening? And then ask yourself this next question. What do I actually want from this upcoming meeting, hard talk, or whatever it is? And then the third question, does this align with my values? What we just talked about. Do you know your values inherently enough to where you can walk into this meeting, this hard conversation, and know I will not deviate from these things because that's who I am and what I'm about? So you don't need to have a coach in the room with you for this, but you can utilize what you learn through mental fitness and coaching conversations. And you just need to pause long enough to be able to ask those questions and then walk into that meeting, that hard conversation, that moment that matters with a little bit more assuredness of this is who I am. This is what I know in my core before I enter into this season. So I encourage you to do that. It's something I need to do in my own life, is ask those questions. And Richard, it was genuinely another great opportunity to talk with you. I hope that we can continue to have more of these conversations. I think really you'll be in California more often, so we'll have to do it, virtual.
Come on out to San Diego.
Yeah, dude, I would love to. That'd be great. So thanks for pulling back the curtain on what happens in the coaching sessions. I'm sure that explained a lot to people, and we appreciate you being here with us as well. And that's a wrap. Thanks, everybody.